So we go again, number 51 of the Darkness Light Godcast. Welcome back if you're joining me again. Jim McFadden here from the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. And after last week's really quite 50 felt quite significant. It's amazing when I'm looking back on it. I can barely remember. I was looking through the recordings on the hard drive and just seeing all the different topics, and as I've mentioned on here before, the idea is to kind of document the journey that I'm on with this mission and the work we're doing, and the week by week, which I really do try to get them out every single week. It's the one thing that's one of the disciplines that I have, is to just kind of, and it's amazing the level of what happens in the week and the content that's able to get out of the week because of the work that I'm doing every single day. And before I come on here to do this, I'm reflecting on the previous week and where I've been. And obviously mirroring what's happening in the world a lot of times, but at the same time really just my own perspective on all of this, what's going on in the world, how we make it better, how we fix it, how we get it back to the way that it's meant to be, which is what this is all about. That's what this work, this mission, the intention with everything that I'm doing is all about, how we make things better, how we help everyone find that place that I do believe is available to anybody who's interested or called. That place of freedom, that place of realisation, eventually enlightenment is a plan with this work. That's something that once you understand, once it goes together, then it's no sitting in a cave in your robes meditating for the rest of your life. That's not what it's about. We're here for a human experience, but at the same time the spiritual journey that goes on inside every single one of us, and most are ignorant to it and don't know that it even exists, which is something that obviously needs to change. And recently the work within the Vortex and what I'm doing has been more vocal about that, the other different modalities and the things that I share and pass on and help people with. They're very much like basics and the foundations and the fundamentals, just to help you navigate your way through life. But once you get into the real work, then it's all about the spiritual journey, it's all about meditation, and what that even is, and then ultimately what you can achieve with that. And it feeds into this one. Number 51 is called To End All War, and it's actually really quite simple. Unfortunately it's not that easy, obviously, because of the way the world is, and especially what's going on just now. It feeds into the Middle East. Anyone who knows me, I am a realist. I kind of check in fairly regular just to see what's going on, and that's only started the last kind of few years. For the longest time, probably the first 20 years of this journey, since 1997, 1998, I had no real interest in what was going on in the world. Never stopped watching the news. Buying newspapers was a thing back in the day. Before the internet, that's how people got their information, but the news, it was on the television. And I remember you'd only probably 4 stations when I was growing up, which sounds antiquated to think we were at just now. But how you got what was happening in the world was basically what came through, the news. And we had a television in our kitchen, which again is just absolutely horrible and absolute madness. But we'd sit in the television, we'd be on the background most nights, not every night, but most nights. And by the end of dinner time you get in for school, or later on when I was still at home, you get in for work, in the early days, then the TV would be on and the news would be on, and you would basically tune in to see what was happening in the world. And whatever they were telling you on the television, you believed to be true. That was something that I had to come to terms with quite a few years ago, and I realised that just because somebody tells you something, whether it's written down, and I always used to think, like, why would somebody go to the bother to write something down or to present it in such a way if it's not the truth? And then obviously when you understand propaganda and how the control takes place from the media, then you get to see through all of that. But at the time, that again, the innocence and growing up, then that wasn't a thing. You just believe whatever they told you. And fascinating now to see, because of the internet and because of the exchange of information and the amount of information that's out there, and obviously people capturing real live stuff on through video on their phones. Everybody's got their ability now. They've got their own production company, like TV station within their phones. They can just clip stuff and capture it, and they're basically that's the news. They've got it, and even that, I now see a load of you'll see the clips coming up, and straight away you can tell that it's AI. It's been man-made. So now you need to really kind of, how do you discern what is truth and what is false from that perspective, which is really interesting. In the beginning of the videos coming out and stuff, and what people were saying, you just believe it to be true. But now you've got to kind of almost second guess everything, and there is a way to discern truth from falsehood, thanks to Dr. David Hawkins. But just now, and where the world is, And as always with us, it's to see where it is so we can do something about it. It's. I remember I went through the whole truther thing. Probably must be going back almost 10 years now, ish. Maybe slightly less than that. Maybe 9 years ago, and I had the realisation of the world and the problems we face in the world. And back then there was a whole day. The truther information, probably pre-COVID, a few years before COVID, back 2000. When was that? 2016, 17, 18, that kind of time. The information about the world, how the world was set up, and who controlled the world, and how things went together. And I remember at the beginning, I couldn't believe it, and to the point where once you start to get down the rabbit holes and you start to make sense of stuff, especially where I was at the time. I just experienced enlightenment myself, and this was a few years later, and I was I had a real. The reason I believe I came across it, was a real desire to see what the truth was, the truth that sets us free. And when you have this life of just taking in the information what they tell you, and then you start to realise that things are not quite what they seem, and then you start to realise that, as I did one day, that every single thing, more or less, that I believe to be true, from the news and from what's getting put out in the media, and then things like organised religion, the Catholic Church, growing up a good Catholic, and then the realisation of the horrors, their history and what they're all about. When you start to look at what they did, in terms of invading countries, and what they did to so many people over the years, you start to it was an eye opener, and it was at the same time it was deeply disturbing. That's before I even got to things like Hollywood and the movie industry, and the politics and all that kind of stuff. And it really kind of was a really unsettling time for me. Probably about a year and a half I went through it. I was very much starting to be made aware of the challenges in sex, in terms of sex trafficking and paedophilia and all that kind of stuff. It was a heavy time. I remember at the time being so upset with it, and almost I couldn't handle it. I really struggled to handle it. And the only person I could really talk to about it was my wife. I remember at the time, she was like, "Fuck off! I'm not interested. Don't want to." And she's right. She was right. And I think for me, just trying to share it at the time and probably try to navigate it with somebody as a sounding board, she definitely was not the person for that. And the reason was because she's obviously very awake and aware of herself in a different way, not from the truther perspective. Doesn't want to know anything about it, but in terms of the desire to feel good and the desire to be happy and to be joyful. So I very much went through it myself. And it wasn't really, but I believe as well, as with all this stuff, because I've been doing this for so long, we're coming up in 30 years now in the next wee bit. So I've always been a wee bit ahead of the curve. I started this journey when I was 25, and I'm 53 now. So in terms of what I did, personal development very, very quickly, and spiritual development for all the years where nobody knew about it, and I was just kind of on this intentional devotional journey to experience the divine that was inside of me, that I knew was inside of me, because I'd read it in the books and teachers like Wayne Dyer and the spiritual authors and presenters that were about at that time, the people he was learning from. The information from the yogis and different evolved beings was all leading to that truth that there's so much more, and we are so much greater than we're led to believe. And so after 18 years of every single day in meditation and cleaning up my diet and learning of so many great teachers in terms of awareness and how things go together, and how the desire and the need to feel good, and how significant that is, the law of attraction through Abraham Hicks, and manifestation and vibrations and a different way of living. I've always kind of felt like, I've literally been where it is just now. I've been ahead of the curve in so many different areas, so that many years before even COVID hit, I was talking about obviously my own experience with vaccination, how it literally ruined my life when I was 13 years old, made me really sick, something I still deal with to this day, hyper-stimulated immune system, and just in that constant state of stress that because of whatever was in that vaccination, and obviously because of the truth of information, and because of the challenges when I did experience enlightenment. And incidentally, anybody that doesn't know what enlightenment just means the direct experience of the divinity that's inside of you. That's what it is. You're not cutting about in a cloud and that kind of stuff. There's nothing like that. There's a human being inside of it, but the awareness to have received and experienced different levels of consciousness, through sitting with my eyes closed in meditation between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning every single day, for the last, it's been 28 plus years now, that devotional journey to experience what the truth was and what it was all about. And when I got it, when I really experienced that, when I came back from it, the whole world changed. I started to see through everything. I really did. I could see it because I was at a different level of mind. I was no longer, trapped in a circus. I was no longer a clown, in ignorance and just believing whatever anybody told me. That innocence of a child that comes in, the innocence of human beings, where the goodness that's inside of us, we believe that goodness. That inherent goodness that you come in with, that's when somebody tells you something, then for the first wee while you believe it until you start to have evidence contrary to that, and you start to distrust people and start to second guess things, and then that becomes another journey in terms of how you work out what the truth is and what isn't. Again, that kinesiology test that the Hawkins talks about and kind of brought to the world in many ways, how to discern truth from falsehood. That changed my life, the ability just to, and then to feel it. Once you reach a certain level of consciousness, then you can feel when something's true. Your guidance system, your gut, you'll just know when somebody's telling lies, and when somebody's basically trying to take you down a different route that probably isn't necessarily for your good or for anybody's good. The lies that come out, especially with the media stuff. So I started to see through everything, and as heavy going as it was, I believe that I had to go through it when I did. Because now with this work and the mission that I'm on and the stage that I'm at with the vortex and bringing it to the world and what it's doing for people, I've always had to go through things first and get them for myself and make sense of them, and then master myself going through it. And even as turbulent as that has been at many times, then it's when you get the other side, it's right, okay, that's really challenging, and so many people are going to face that. I've always known that, which is the case now, but then it's when you're standing on the other side and you've been through it yourself, again, being able to teach and speak from experience is the only way this works. Then that's why I feel that all the things that I've been through, list them. You just need to, if you've heard my story and know how my life and the challenges that I've faced, everything that I've been through, I've transcended every single bit of it and got beyond it and found the healing and found the peace and found the forgiveness to move beyond it, so I can break the chains and I don't become like the way that it's probably meant to be for that stuff that happens to like so many people, where they continue and they make the same, they repeat the same mistakes because of whatever has happened to you with the traumas and the pain and the suffering, the decimation happens, and a lot of times people don't know how to get beyond it, and they get trapped in that cycle. But for me, I'm all about breaking the chains and transcending, so we don't pay it forward and all about finding absolutely different ways of doing things. So like I say, when COVID broke, that would be a good example of it. The very first day that it basically broke, I did a live video, which I think's been taken down now, but I was basically, my biggest concern was mandatory vaccination. This is before anybody had even mentioned vaccines, but again, because I was tuning into that field of consciousness and meditation every single day, and because I was so aware of the world and the circus and how they control it, then I could just feel, that well, what's the worst case scenario here? How do you fix a virus that's going to kill everybody? Well, then there's opportunity to do what they want medically, which was the case, and I got a lot of kind of backlash from that at the time. People were like, thought I was off my nut, and then very quickly, inside, certainly within the first year, that became, the fact. You think of the vaccination centres, and you used to remember driving past them and seeing people lining up, getting the shot into their arm and going to these, these vaccination centres, which at the time was heartbreaking. It really was, and the division that caused it wasn't the best of times, but it was just another one of those instances where I could see the long game, and I could see like what their intentions were. And now on the other side of that, there's so many stories of people that have been negatively affected with the vaccinations. I heard another one the other day, an old friend of mine and the families. And it's just heartbreaking, and when you can see things as they are, and there's a different intention and an agenda, and it's not for the good, and you see good people as this man is and was, and he's in a terrible state now with it, but when you can see how that affects people, and literally it's not ended his life, but the life that he's been left with because of it, that's really, really challenging. And that's certainly been the case recently with the thing that's going on in the Middle East, and the wars that we face and the challenges we face in this time, June 2025, which is a real interesting time. I've spoken about on here before about the prophecies from my teacher, Babaji, my spiritual teacher, who I've been with and run about for the last 25, 26 years now. And he's became very relevant over this last 6 months. Again, I do believe one of his prophecies was the challenge we're going to face in this year, 2025 and into 2026, and specific to nuclear energy is how he put it, with the information that came through. And, so I've always had one eye on this over the last kind of 3 or 4 years. I've been thinking about this time, and at one time always been aware that we human beings are blessed with free will, and hopefully because of all the light that's in the world just now, and because of all the good that's in the world, because of the level of awareness that's in the world, then hoping that we would, go in a different direction, and steer away from the possibility, and some would say the inevitability of nuclear weapons being used at some point. There's always a thing like when they create these weapons of mass destruction, when they create these tools of just death, then at some point you feel, what's the point in actually manufacturing them and making them? Obviously the money that happens and who benefits from them, but if they're there, and the way that man is, especially how low man has sunk, or is, and maybe it's never risen, but the people that are in control of these powers, then there's a possibility that they could use them. And that's something that's obviously terrifying. And over the last probably 18 months, really since the literal insanity and the genocide that's been taking place over in the Middle East. And again, this is where, because of Western media and because of what they feed us and through the televisions or even through your social media feeds, and even on YouTube, you can jump on as I have done in the past, and you look at two different organisations. America's great for it. You can look at two different news channels and take the two different perspectives. When the elections were going on was a prime example. You would see what one side was thinking for your man Trump, and what the other was kind of putting towards him. And Hillary Clinton was the exact same, or Biden. There's always two sides to it. America it was easy to see that. How that information and where you're getting your information from, and how that forms your belief system. That's something that I see a lot, especially by older people, when they only tune into either their newspaper or they tune into the news, they watch the news, and they've got a really strong knowing of what's going on in the world and who's causing the problems. And obviously with awareness, and you get to see beyond that, and you get to see that the circus and how the circus is controlled, how that perspective is so limited in so many ways and done by design, to keep us in that place of not knowing. And what I've been watching and what I've been picking up, and it's really accelerated. The first probably year or so, nothing much was happening. You'd have the occasional people online who were talking about how bad it was, what they were doing, what the Israelis were doing over in Palestine, and the atrocities, in terms of literally wiping out a people. Those people basically had their land taken off them thanks to the British or whoever was above, the next level up from that, whoever controlled that, and basically had their country taken from them, and were assigned a portion of land over the years, since it's been, since it was agreed not by them, but since it was taken from them. Over the years, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the Israeli, the country of Israel, or the state of Israel, what it's done over the years has just been a gradual elimination process. And then when you watch over the last 18 months, and then really over the last probably 6 months, when it really started to be reported online in terms of people who are in that battle, that right in the centre of the battle, right in the kind of heat of the battle, doctors, paramedics, aid workers, that were losing their lives. They were telling the story as to how it was being done to them, what they were doing to bombing hospitals and not allowing the aid to get through, and basically acts of war, which when you remember where the Israeli people, how it all happened after the Second World War, and to think what they're doing, many people believe what they've done and what they're doing and how they're doing it is much worse than what basically happened during the Second World War, to the people, the Jewish people, and watching it unfold. And obviously when you start to see how it goes together in terms of whose side, who's on whose side, so behind Israel, the United Kingdom, absolutely. Behind Israel, you've got America, which as always they're never far away from it. The other day I was listening to a man who was talking about America. And since the year of independence, which was 1776. So the 1770s, since the year of American independence, there's only been 6 years where America has not been at war with another country, which is absolutely terrifying. The other one was that since the Second World War, America has been involved in terms of invading, in terms of regime changes, in terms of proxy wars, which basically means like funding others to do their dirty work, through their secret organisations like the CIA and obviously the Israeli special forces, the intelligence agencies like Mossad. 80 different countries they've been involved in basically going in and causing trouble and causing war. And that's something that obviously needs to change, and that's something that, for that to change, then you start to look at where the world is just now. There's been a massive shift, and I've been talking about for a long time now how, the fall of the Western civilization. When you understand the level of debt that America's in, if you ever see there's a debt calculator, which it's terrifying. Not just for them, but because of the significance that America has on a world level. And the reason they're so powerful, one of the most significant reasons, is because when the petrodollar was introduced, so basically when America did the deals, how they did the deals, I don't think it was with a handshake and in good faith, but when they did the deals in terms of how oil was going to be exchanged and sold around the world, the reason America became so significant and so powerful, because basically the American dollar, the petrodollar they call it, that was the prime currency that the oil was traded in. So that's why the dollar is so significant. That's why America, one of the reasons America is so powerful. And when you see what's happened to America in terms of the land of the free, is hilarious when you think of that now. I grew up in America. We were lucky, blessed, because my mum and dad's hard work. One of my dad's businesses was a travel agents back in the day. I mean, what an entrepreneur he was, for somebody who started with nothing. And we were in America at quite a young age. And so things like McDonald's, which didn't exist here, and different fast food chains and drive-in movies and obviously films like, I remember Grease coming out at the time. We'd been in America not long after that. So when we were really young, my dad's sister moved to America when she was in her early 20s, I believe. So we'd been over there as children, both America and Canada. One of my dad's apprentices lived in Canada. So this is like really probably at the height of the industrial age of America, when, success and money and the power of the dollar and, the awareness as to how hard they worked and how much they put into like being successful. Very much aware of that. And I remember coming back, and as I grew up, my dad always used to say that America was probably 10 to 15 years in front of us. In London was probably, maybe 5 years in front of us. So even remembering back to when the first McDonald's came here, as an indication, and how you wish, or I wish that had never happened. Because when you see what's happened to America, and you see where they're at, and you see the level of debt, and you see, the pictures on the internet in terms of what's going on over there, it doesn't work, it really doesn't work, and it is very much broken, and it isn't free fall. In fact, it's done. America's bankrupt, as is most of the world, and we certainly in the UK, when you look at the nick that we're in, we're not far behind them, especially what's going on just now, and when you see how America, and you think about the numbers in terms of the invasions and the war, and as you talk about, you think back of empires, the amount of different empires there's been, the Roman Empire, and there's so many different empires. The Roman Empire would be a great example. The British Empire is another one. At certain times, every single empire, especially when it's based on power and like basically bullying tactics and getting in and using force to get their own way, there comes a time, every single time in history, where that empire has basically fallen, and something else will replace that. And the American Empire, as great as it has been, is finished. It's done and dusted. There's no way back for it. It can't recover for many different reasons. And this just now, what's going on in the world, it feels like the final few acts in this movie that's been Americans' independence, certainly in my lifetime, and it feels a relief, in terms of when you understand what they've actually done and how they've done it, that it's time for it to go. And the challenge we face, the United Kingdom, we stand beside them and we're not far behind them. And that's half terrifying, especially being Scottish. Again, with the United Kingdom, in terms of what the English, Great Britain, how they, the British Empire, and how they basically took us, how they took over us, and how that's accepted and normalised, and a lot of people really they love that, the fact that they've been colonised. I don't, I like the fact that they were Scottish and we were independent, and at one point. And you see it in Ireland as well, how that country's been literally split down the middle, or certainly the top half of it. It still remains, under the control of the British Empire. And if that was a good thing, if that was something that everybody benefited from, if that was something where, the people were being looked after and there was a kind of fair playing field and everybody won. But that obviously isn't the case, and that feeds into so many different kind of rabbit holes in terms of politics and the reasons for that to be and who owns the world and all that kind of stuff and how long that goes back. That's for another conversation. But the war that's going on just now, and the damage that it's done, and how public it's been. When you think about the Israeli soldiers and what they were putting up on TikTok, and that's just the stuff that you hear about. There's a lot more reports coming out now. It's getting more and more open in terms of what they've been doing to the people they've captured, and what the amount of children that are literally like dying through starvation every single day. Over 100,000 people, they reckon, over the last 18 months have lost their lives. You see the pictures in terms of what's happened in Palestine, then that's something that needs to stop. And when you consider that America's funding it and being okay with it, and the fact that we stand beside them, and the fact that it's not been reported and nothing really seemed to have been getting done about it until very recently, then again, even more indication of how far we have fallen as a people and as a species, and it needs to change. It can't go on, it needs to stop. So very aware of the challenges we face, the reasons for it. Separation, war has always been about separation. It's all about being about suppression. It's always been about, there's a pooch coming, she's going to lie down. It's always been about control, it's always been about power, it's always been about money. The rich and the military industrial complex, in terms of who benefits from, when these contracts are given out, when you actually understand how it's went together, all these regime changes and how they go in and they take away. Iran's a fine example. When you understand a lot of the Middle East, how we believed growing up, how these were barbaric people, and you always imagined them cutting about in camels, and just in a really kind of almost subhuman experience of life that they had, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. And you see the pictures of the way these countries used to be before, the secret services got involved and intelligence agencies got involved and decided that it was time, always because of business, always because somebody would say no to them, always because somebody said, that isn't the way that they were happy to go ahead, in terms of these countries would basically disagree with America. The story about British Petroleum, BP, when they started pumping the oil out of there, and the reason that the regime change took place was because of the profit share that had been agreed, and it was basically the Americans no, there needs to be more than that. They wanted the lion's share, obviously. So instead of it being fair, then that never works. It's especially for a bully. The bully needs to get almost all of it, and a lot of times all of it. So at that point, what they do to that country and how they start to fund these different groups. You think of Al Qaeda and ISIS, and how America's basically funded. That's all literal fact now. How they were created and funded, and then eventually in different ways they would turn against them. But it's always been the same stuff. How they go in and basically take out these, they make the country unstable, and a lot of the times they put in their own person. And there's always money behind it. There's always greed. There's always control. And then when the country's decimated, especially with things like war, then they go in and they also take on the contracts for rebuilding them again. So it's an incredible business model when you think about it. And at the same time, the overall plan on the kind of next level up, when you've got the separation, the division, the control, when the power remains in the hands of those that own the world, which would be, again, next level up from people thinking it's Donald Trump and it's Netanyahu and it's Keir Starmer. These are just puppets in the game. It makes no difference. I remember a long time ago realising it didn't matter who you voted for. And now we understand about the world in terms of who controls the world and how it goes together. Then they're just, to think that Donald Trump is making decisions just now, you just need to watch him. He's flip-flopping every 30 seconds. Not that I tune in that often, but I watch people who do tune in that often. I'll tune into them just to get a kind of a 30-second snapshot. And when you see, the incongruencies, and he obviously doesn't know his arse for his elbow and what he's actually doing. So to think how most people believe that he's to blame for this, or he's complicit, or the role that he's playing, he's actually the one that's making the choices as to what's happening. Netanyahu is the same. It doesn't matter who's in these positions. It's the people or the groups above that that control. The real reason is control. The real reason, I do believe, at a certain level, we understand the owners of the world and what they're all about. The 1%, or maybe even the 1% of the 1%, they are all about keeping us down. They're all about suppression. They're all about maintaining what they've got, and obviously because in terms of numbers, the best way to do that, the people, the worst thing that they can have would be the people uprising and standing together as one. So the best way to do that is with war. The best way to do that is to keep us fighting amongst each other, even within. And slightly terrifying, I saw a video of Morgan Freeman. He's on a lot just now. The exact same time as those bombs fell last week when America started to get involved in this war directly. Morgan Freeman had released a video talking about the nations of Islam, and it was like a call to arms almost, in terms of enough's enough, which I agree with, but in terms of how he was intending to do that, which felt like more of the same. We stand together and we take out the tyrant, which is more war, which obviously that doesn't work. Because again, the religious perspective, how many wars are going on in the world just now and have ever been that have not been about God, and who's the most significant to God. And when you understand God the way that I understand God, then obviously that isn't right either. So again, that's another level, and it's at the next step and the next stage where the challenge of these different religions rising up and standing together. That's half terrifying when you understand the consequences that could be faced with that. And it's already happening in the world just now. I saw it in South Africa last week, where Christians basically getting mowed down with machine guns and getting chased with Muslims, and you're thinking, what's going on, man? How do we get to this point? And then more importantly, how do we fix it? So the ultimate level, the reason that they do this is to keep us down, is to keep us suppressed, is to keep us beaten. And that's, you see the pictures over in Palestine just now. When you think what the people have went through, been born into that environment. We're talking about it in here the other night in Boys Club, talking about being born into that war-torn environment and under a constant threat, even what it does to your nervous system, like being in that constant state of like stress all the time, worried, in terms of you're going to lose your life, if you're going to be bombed, if you're going to be killed, going to be shot. This drones attacks now, just terrifying stuff. And at the same time, the negative effects of that, how these people are able to live in that environment and just go about their lives, they just keep going, and how they've accepted it in some way is really incredible to even understand that. And when you deal with things that they're dealing with in terms of losing family members and the things that you see or they're seeing in this war that's going on and what's happening to them, that's stuff that you never recover from, and obviously that would make you go into a place of hatred for most of them, not all of them, and a place where retaliation and basically doing away with that which has done that to you is the only way you get past that. So it keeps kind of self-perpetuating. It keeps, it's keeping putting fuel on the fire. It never ends at that point. And it's a really kind of interesting time where I feel we stand at a crossroads just now, mankind, where there's this awareness, this mass awareness of people being aware that it's wrong. And, at the same time, it's like, then how do we get beyond it? How do we fix it? So the war and who initiates it, and the puppets that control it, and the losers, which are us, the people, staying in suppression. My dad was talking the other day about after the Second World War, when his dad came back from the army. My grandfather was a PT, he taught the commandos in the British Army. And he never quite made the war, thank God, or I wouldn't be here. But when the men come back, or a lot of times, obviously the men never come back, and the communities that they built, the housing schemes and the estates that they built for the families after the war. And the amount of families that were basically, the no dads, so the family unit, again, talk about suppression, talk about decimation, talk about how you control things like population and you control the uprisings. After a war, my grandfather's brother, that would be my dad's uncle, mustard gas. And he talked about going to see him over in the military hospital over in Erskine, and what this chemical weapon had done to him. His teeth were all rotted out, his face was decimated, and what a life experience. And in the name of what? The war to end all wars. We understand what happened with the Second World War and who was funding that and how all that came together. Again, it's like this is all been for what reason? And for me, it's to keep us down, it's to keep us separated from the way that it's meant to be. Now that may be a wee bit simple, and there obviously is more to do with that in terms of who's benefiting from it. The money, the control, the power, all the stuff I've spoke about. But at the same time, the byproduct of that is it really keeps us separate from what's available to us. And that really needs to be, the way that this goes. That's the way that we get out of this. That's the way that we change it. That's the way that we get, back to what's possible on this planet. And that's the intention with this work. So as always, the problem and the challenge we face has been affecting me deeply this week for a really kind of a short period of time. It was fascinating because I'm so tuned in just now because of the work that I'm doing myself, and because of the meditations, the live meditations that are every day just now within the group. I found myself waking up on Saturday night during the night. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I felt a real, I was laughing to the guys the other night, I felt like it was like Ben Kenobi in Star Wars, a disturbance in the Force. I felt like really something significant had happened. Didn't know what it was. I hadn't really been checking in the news much that week. Was aware of what was going on, but when I woke up, sat up in meditation, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, a couple of hours, couldn't get into it, just didn't felt uneasy. Ended up just going back to sleep, which I never ever really do once I'm up. Once I'm in meditation, that's me for whatever, 2-3 hours. But I got up, had back to sleep, and then when I got up eventually, when I turned on my phone, probably 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, I saw that America, had basically direct involvement. And at that point, my heart sunk, because then you're then looking at the other side and who stands beside Iran. And Iran's a really significant country in this. We in the West have no idea how powerful Iran is, especially who stands beside them. You're looking at Russia and you're looking at China, and the BRICS organisation, that consortium of countries that's basically looking to do away with the petrodollar and replace America at some point. And obviously because of the religious possibilities of religious war, the Muslims and the nations of Islam standing up against the Christians and Israel and all that kind of stuff. It really hit me hard, and it really affected me massively, really negative, and it was really kind of sadness. The worry of what's going to happen. I'm not really talking about that. That's a bit of a concern. Obviously things like if it does go to that level, God willing it doesn't. But if it does go to that level, there's not much you can do about it. But then how it has a direct impact. I'm thinking of the young men that I know within the group. I'm thinking of my son. Things like conscription and just the way that they do it in terms of, and that would be hilarious now to think like the young ones. Like how many of them would be able to even do something. They talk about boots in the ground and signing up for the army, and there's a massive drive just now to join the army, and you think how incapable so many of them are because of how easy it's been for them in the Western world, but then also terrifying as a father. And that would include myself, probably the age that I'm at, if there was, and people say it'll never happen, but it's like you think back to COVID and the power, that the government has in terms of what it tells you to do, and there's nothing really. We watched it then, they were like sheep, people just lining up, and back in the day, the pictures of Uncle Sam needs you and your country needs you, all that kind of stuff, and how people were willingly signing up to protect, king and country. And now that's very, very different, and because of the awareness and the light that's in the world, that would be something that'd be very interesting to watch, but at the same time, half terrifying because of, the possibilities that it might happen at some point, God willing it doesn't, and really kind of, even though I'm verbalising that, it's something that I obviously contemplate, and I do speak about it, and I think about it on occasion. It's almost like prepare for the worst but expect the best. Always focused on the solution, always kind of, okay, seeing where it's at, but then what can you do about it? And my experience last week was heavy going, because it was a real sadness in terms of, again, like, when does this fucking end? When do we get beyond this? When do we get to a place where enough's enough? And that's where, when Iran struck back at America straight away, I could feel it almost like it's time for this to end. It's time, and the way you deal with bullies to basically to face up to them. And interestingly enough, on Monday night, we had boys club on Monday night, and I wasn't in the best of places. And with that inner circle within the group, I can speak my truth. So they know me and they know who I am, and I can be myself. And when they came in, one of the things we do is we go around the group and just to see where everybody is and checking in. And 99.9% of the time, it's all good. It's all positive because everybody's flying. But on occasion, there are times that where stuff needs addressed, and we need to kind of. And for me, almost leading it, I suppose, because of the programme and them being drawn to this work that's coming through me. Then I had to share with them where I was at, and I had to share with them. And I know all this stuff. I know that the downside of like paying attention to it. I know the downside of getting caught up, and I know the downside of worrying about it. I get all that. I understand it as well as anybody. But at the same time, it really felt like almost like a call to arms, like the arms of light and the arms of God, and the power of God. To say like the possibility and the challenges we face. I've just escalated massively, and where this is going to go I didn't know, and at the same time it became very quickly and very clear and really apparent how far that group is in terms of consciousness and their awareness, and it was a small group on Monday night, but when we started to verbalise all the stuff that I know to be true and a lot of the things they've learned from me, in terms of, it doesn't matter where the world is, it doesn't matter what they're doing, it doesn't matter like how bad it is, it doesn't matter what the consequences might be, then the answer always needs to be, what's the solution? Like, how do we get back to the way? How do we get back to the work? How do we get back to bringing the light into this world? And I can't tell you how much relief I got and just how grateful I was to be in that group like men who got it the same way that I get it. And for whatever reason I was verbalising it maybe, and I really feel like it was just for us to level up. That's what it felt like, even at the time when I was doing it, as heavy as it was affecting me. It's like to see where it's at, but at the same time, like, what can we do about it? How do we make it better? How do we, what is the answer to that? And that's what this is all about. What is the answer? How do we like end all wars? How do we do that? What's the solution? And it is really simple, but it isn't easy because of all of the above I've just spoke about, where people are, how they've been affected by the world, the boot in the neck that the world has gotten, so many people, because of the decimation and the trauma and the challenges they've faced in their lifetime because of war, because of, all the stuff I've spoke about. But at the same time, when you realise that if that continues and that keeps going, that isn't the way to fix it. And it's always interesting when they talk about peace and how they're just trying to get to peace. And peace, does peace ever work? It's like a band-aid maybe, even the short-term solution and the ceasefires that take place. It was really interesting from as low as I felt on Monday night, and then once we did the class and we did the meditation, which was absolutely incredible. There is so much light coming through that group. There is so much awareness, and there's like quantum shifts in consciousness almost every single time we get together. And the ascended beings and the kind of divine masters that are absolutely here to help. And this is not just me saying that. This is, and remember, these are normal men, like fathers and husbands and businessmen and tradesmen and just normal human beings that are now tapping into different energies that are coming through in meditation. And when we didn't finish till 11 o'clock on Monday night, but we woke up the next morning and the ceasefire had basically been in place. So Trump and whatever had happened, they'd announced a ceasefire. I had a giggle to myself, and I shared it with Michael on Tuesday night. That I'm pretty sure that the meditation we had on the Monday night was enabled that to happen. The light that we brought in, I'd allowed that ceasefire, because at the time it looked like it was only going to go one way, and it was like, get your tinfoil hats out and get ready because it was coming. But the meditation we did and what we were able to achieve vibrationally together as a group, I had a really kind of strong feeling and almost a knowing that we'd played a part in like turning that in the opposite direction. And that's the answer. The answer is, it's a massive shift in consciousness. It's a massive shift in awareness. It's the way to understand the power that's inside every single one of us. That's how we fix this. That's how we get it back to the way that it's meant to be. And peace doesn't work, and the opposite of war and the opposite of killing and the solution to all of that is love. Love is the answer. Love is that sacred vibration. And interestingly, just before I started this, I'm thinking about what is love, because people have no idea what love is. We say it and we mention it, and a lot of times you feel it. If you're lucky, you will. And for a lot of people, that isn't the case. They can't feel love. But in my meditation just now, when I'm sitting, and I've got this feeling within me. And this goes back to when I experienced the first enlightened experience I had, where I became the field, and it felt like love. When I came back, I realised that's why they say that God is love. But again, the understanding of love, even how much I love my children, how much I love my wife, how much I love my pooch who's behind the camera, that thing, love, the word doesn't really cover it. And over the last few days in particular, when I'm really getting into it and I can feel the energy coming through me, things like the Holy Spirit has been something that's been very aware of recently, in terms of God's desire to communicate in these times with lightworkers and help in different ways. Something I've never been really even understood it, obviously, like intellectually, and as a Catholic growing up, they talk about the Holy Spirit, but the energy of the Holy Spirit and being aware of that in meditation. Christ consciousness is something that's always been there, and within the group, more and more people are tuning into, Lord Jesus Christ. Not for me the kind of Bible version or the Catholic or the Christian version, and what that's meant to be and what that's been sold as. But the energy of Christ is something that's been really relevant, and very aware of that as well. So with all these different energies coming through and sitting in the presence, my master through the meditation, Babaji, the Divine Master himself, the man who's got me into all this and the reason I'm on this path through the Sage Mark system that's been run about me for the last 25 years now. The reason I'm on this spiritual path is because of him. When you understand who he was and who he is, and the power that he has as a being, and the bridge towards the divine. All this has come quite recently, in terms of my new levels of awareness and understanding, and it's very, very real, and it's really powerful, and it's fixing a lot of stuff for so many people around about it because of the transmission that's coming through. But when you sit in that field, and you feel what's actually happening, and the contemplation, because it's an active process. You're not just sitting in like mindfulness and sitting with your mind quiet. That's relaxation. That's not what this is. Meditation is to connect into the field of consciousness, is to tap into that divine field of infinite intelligence, source energy, where we come from, where everything comes from, where the stars come from, every single thing that's ever been created comes to that field that some people call God. And the way that you feel it, as I did when I come back, and I felt that feeling of love. It felt like love, but it's an energetic force that you can't call it love, because love's just a word, but it is a frequency. It's an intentional field. That the best way that we can describe it is by saying something like unconditional love. So if you're blessed with children, if you're blessed with a dog, sometimes that's easier, but the feelings of love that you have towards them, when you're able to kind of quiet the mind and switch off your head, which a lot of people can't do. That's why it's very, very difficult. They're in a constant state of chronic stress. So when you're actually able to turn that off and reconnect back into your heart and then back into your soul, and you go on this internal journey through meditation, that's the only way you can do this, is through meditation. And that's why meditation is so important just now. But when you tap into your heart and into your soul, the awareness that starts to come up, the experiences that start to come up, the information and the inspiration that starts to come through, and this is all based on direct experience. What you get, it feels kind of like a version of love, but when you start to get beyond that and you start to realise, for one, the vastness of it, in terms of the field. When I get into meditation, I sit with that Divine Master, and I can feel him, the love that he has for me. I feel the love that I have for him. Just so grateful in so many different ways. The fact that I've even been almost picked, to allow it to come through me. But then, he's a bridge to the divine. And for the longest time, I would sit and tap into the field. I would sit and tap into the consciousness and the frequency that some people would call God, which is so vast and so overpowering in ways that you can't even quantify. And you only really kind of get glimpses of it. And I talk often about how when you really experience it, and this has happened in so many times over the years, when people really experience it and they're given, the experience of the divine, you can't really comprehend it from the human mind or the human perspective. And a lot of people, a lot of the great saints, this was the case, where it's basically that's them done, because there's such a massive shift in terms of what it does to the human body, that the life it never goes on the way that it was before. You're basically, that's you done and dusted, and many people would then transition into, the next life after that because it's too much. But, through through this Divine Master Babaji, he feels like a bridge and almost like a filter. It feels like that, the transformer on the building site where this divine field is coming through him. And then by my intention and from his intention, I'm tapping into it, and then I'm able to experience it in different ways. And it feels really like a laser focus just now, and it's very specific, the information, the inspiration, the lessons that are coming through, the downloads that are coming through, almost like the instructions for me in terms of what I could be doing. And I'm here to play, so I'm here to help the world get back on its feet. So what more can I do? I'm constantly asking that just now. At the detriment to myself, it's felt like the last few days in terms of how tired I've been, because you don't really get a break from it. I'm talking about being in my dreams, but it's 24/7. When I'm going to bed at night time now, I'm asking for guidance from the divine, like what else can I do? And when you're in that unconscious state, that's when the guard goes down. That's when you're really susceptible. That's why it's so important how you get to sleep at night time. That's why I teach my students the best day ever starts the night before. That unconscious state, when you get into sleep and you basically, you surrender to the divine. The last thoughts I'm having before I get into bed, my intention is to hand it over to God and to receive more downloads. And the dreams that I'm having and the information and the guidance that I'm getting and the work that's been given to me, I am so blessed in so many ways, and it's full on, and it's really intense. But this is the time, I feel like this is the time. For the last 20 years I've been doing this work. It really feels like all of it is really coming to the point now where, this is what it's all about. This is what the vortex and the mission and all the stuff that I'm doing is for these times. And really people don't ever find God or ever go looking for God when things are going well, because the circus is so attractive. The material world and the ego and all the stuff that keeps you busy by design is so attractive, and that can keep you going for many, many thousand lifetimes. But it's normally through adversity or decimation. And unfortunately, I've always felt that it would be really challenging times where people actually started to, see the value in what it is that I'm doing here and really want to get on about it, because they understand and they see through the challenges of the ego and the challenges of the circus, and really kind of get to a point where there must be another way. And at that point, like, what is the other way? And then at that time, I'm standing here going, right, here is the way that I found. It's not my way, it's the way, it's the divine way, it's the divine path. So unfortunately, because of the nature of the world and what it takes to find this work, and the good news is, that when you do find it, then you get to see that every single bit of that has been absolutely worth it. Obviously, there's nothing in vain. And the amount of people that come in here that have lost everything, they've been decimated and there's nothing left. And at that point, the normal channels in terms of religion or the Bible and the antiquated information, and a lot of times the bullshit information in terms of what they're trying to find. I see that a lot with the kind of the 12-step group recovery groups, where people are looking for answers or looking for solutions to transcend their addictions. And because that was like 1930s information, the way that it came through and the way that it's written, it doesn't translate to these times. And that's where, this through direct experience and the work that I'm doing and the way that I'm sharing it, so many people are finding relief when they really need it, when nothing else is working. So the answer is love. The answer is awareness, the power of awareness. And awareness simply means the ability to, shift your consciousness and be able to see things from a different level of mind, from a different level of heart, and a different level of soul, a different level of, your consciousness rising up. And in this world, the level of consciousness is so low. So many people are still in ignorance. So many people have no idea. They don't know what day it is because they're in survival. And as Jesus, Krishna and the Buddha said, ignorance is our only sin. And ignorance just means we don't know. Ignorance means we've never been taught, we've never been shown, again by design. The 1% of the 1%, the owners of the world, they're in awareness. They understand how this goes together. They understand all the in terms of the secret schools and the secrets that have been passed down through millennia. They go back all the way back to antiquity. That information, the ruling royal families, the royals, as they call them, the kind of owners of the world, they go all the way back. They understand and know this information, and obviously their desire is to keep it to themselves, because with that information is great power and great control. There's Murphy girl coming in, and she's starving. My girl, good girl. So awareness is a starter for 10. Awareness to see, things from a different perspective. The awareness to see things in a different way. The power of awareness. Neville Goddard. Michael asked me the other night, "What's your favourite book? What's the most you've ever had from a book?" And it's the power of awareness. When I get that back, probably 15 years ago, and I remember reading it. It was one sentence at a time. I was trying to make sense of it in ways that, she just skipped past the camera there, nice Murph. I wasn't sure if it was going to go. The power of awareness and the ability to see, things from a different perspective is really, what it's all about. Once your awareness shifts, once you have a different level of consciousness, then you've got the ability to do something about it. Then intention comes into it. Once you can see the world in the way that it is, once you can see how difficult it is, once you can see how hard it is, once you can see that it's not working in the way that it's set up by design, is not for your good or for the greatest good, then at that point you can do something about it. And that's where intention is so important. That's where the power of intention, I intend to do something about this. That's what this is all about. That's what this mission and this work is all about. It's the intention to help people. It's the intention to reconnect people back to the way that it's meant to be. That's why I talk about reunion. That's why I talk about reconnection. This latest wave that's coming through, reconnection. It's the reconnection back to the self. It's a reconnection back to your heart and back into your soul, back into your true self, and to understand that, not intellectually or because you read it in a book. You can't get it in the books. It needs to come through direct experience. And the good news is, this power that I'm talking about, this awareness, this sacred vibration that feels like love and is divine in every way, we carry it inside of us. And that's the process within the vortex that I take people through. It's that reconnection process. That's the most significant part of it. It's out of the head and out of your mind and out of your belief system, out of your intellect and your programs and all the bullshit you've picked up along your path, and being able to stop that and slow it down, obviously through breathwork, but guided, the language and the way that I do it, the guided language, and with the best of intentions, is to reconnect so people can get the direct experience of the power that's inside them, and that power is inside every single one of us. That's why this process, it never misses, because as I learned, we came, if it's in me, then it must be in everybody. So that's why every single person with an open heart and open mind that comes in, they will get it. And it's all about enlightenment. That's the whole thing. That's the step. That's the thing that really fixes us, is enlightenment. The direct experience of God, the direct experience of the divinity that we call God, that we carry, that source energy. This has nothing to do with religion. This is the opposite of religion almost. I saw something during the week talking about how there's nothing holy in religion. And when you start to see how that manifests in the world and how they do it in terms of control, I think of the Catholic Church, which was my church. You think of what they've done over the years, and the decimation and the pain and the suffering and the death, and so many different ways that they've created, and how powerful the Vatican is, and all that whole organisation. That's certainly not for the greatest good, and it's certainly nothing to do with God. And there's not a lot of good in it. On a surface level, again, through control, then it would be perceived to be that. But once you see beyond that, that you can't get there. You can't experience enlightenment going through that process. They sell it to you as if you're going to get it in the next life. So once you die, you go to heaven. So you can't get it in this lifetime. And again, what a brilliant business model. They can't fail. But real enlightenment, like true enlightenment, is the direct experience in this lifetime of the divinity that you carry inside you. And that's the thing, that's the step, that's the massive game changer, that's the profound step. And once you experience that, the direct experience of that power, and you become that power, you see you're not separate from it, and you're really not really the subject of God, but you are actually, I am that I am, which basically means I am God. I'm not the full thing, but I carry a piece of it inside of me, as does every living sentient being, including the trees, including the plants, including the animals. We carry it inside of us. We come from the source. So we must carry it inside of us. That's what I learned. That's what I experienced with that first enlightened experience I went through. That I became everything. I became the field. I became the mind and the light and the grace and the goodness that is God. And I took on the power of it for a really short period of time, so I could see it, so I could feel it. But then I come back into this world, into this human body, and then you realise there's work to be done. And then since 2000, and when was that? 13, 14, when I got that, then the mission became, how can I give this to other people? Because it fixes every single thing that it touches. It fixes the depression and the anxiety, and the loss and the trauma and the stuff that I've been through. It fixed every single bit of that. That first experience fixed it all. And when I came back, because my consciousness and me as a being had shifted because of a new experience, then everything changed. I made peace with every single bit of it. And then I knew ways, and I've seen this thousands of times now, where somebody will come in and they experience a bit of what I got, through the breath work and through the meditation, and all of a sudden, whether it's the sexual abuse, whether it's the decimation because of what's happened to them, the trauma they've been through, when they experience this once, when they reconnect back into the light once, then all of a sudden, I say it's like taking the candle into the darkened room. The darkness disappears, because you're in a new place and you get to break the chains and you start to see, the journey that you've been on, and the lessons that have been learned along the way. and really go in a different direction and start to, once you get it for yourself, as I always say, once you get it for yourself, once you master that, once you master the self, the true self, and you know what the true self is, then you need to pass it on, and that's what this is all about. So enlightenment's what it is. The direct experience of God, that divinity that you carry inside you, is in every single one of us. Doesn't matter what creed you are, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your skin colour. We are all one. That was the other thing that I got when I came back from that. I became it all. I became everything. That's what it felt like, and this is documented by so many people. Sadhguru talks about becoming the mountain. That's what it felt. I became the tree and the blade of grass and experienced universal consciousness. So at that point, the thought of being separate from your fellow man, whether they're black, white, pink, green, it doesn't matter. We are all one at a certain level within the field of God. And that's what enlightenment means, and that's the truth, and it's the truth that sets us free, and that's the ultimate truth, the direct realisation of what you are, of who you are, and all that you are. That's the most important part, all that you are. Know who you are as a lower physical being, we carry it inside of us, but at that ultimate level, the realisation, of, we are connected within the field, we are all one, all God's children, absolutely. So reunion is the way that it happens, and eventually to experience as one. That's why I use as one so often, as one, with the divine, as one with the self, as one with each other. And there was a great film, a kids film called Ants, and there's a brilliant scene in it where the ants are starting to rise up, and they're in this bar, the big grasshopper dude, who's basically he's the general, and he's the colonel probably, whoever's the highest, the general, and he's basically in charge of suppressing the ants. And they're in this bar, and there's this big dispensary, and it's like grain. They're allowing the grasshoppers to finish their shift, and the grasshoppers are making fun because one of the ants has had a bit of an uprising and tried to stand up against them. And he opens the dispensary, and there's this one grain of grain that comes out. A piece of grain comes out, and they're laughing about how, what can one ant do? How can they, ants as small as they are, how can they possibly have any negative effect on us? It's only one ant. That's what he keeps saying. It's just one ant, and he opens up and he gets one ant. And he hits him with one ant. Nothing happens. And then in the next kind of scene, he opens up the latch. An entire dispensary, the analogy of all these different bits of grain coming out, so the masses of the ants, and it basically comes out and it blows them all away, because they've just been taken out with the masses. And that's how we get the world back to the way it's meant to be. That analogy of standing together as one, in union, in the light, the understanding of the power that's inside of us, the power of God, the power of the divine. It's in every single one of us. It transcends all religions. There are many different paths to experience it. Some of them you can't get there, I would say, in terms of how it's sold to us. So again, it's time for a lot of that to be replaced. And if we really want to get there, and spirituality is the way that does that. And that's the intention with this work. It's all about spirituality. It's all about the direct experience. It's a realisation that you don't need anybody or anything to get there. The challenge I've got, and one of my old students who's just found Jesus Christ apparently, and I saw one of the things they put up, talking about the only way to God is through Jesus. That quote that they use, there's only one path to God, and that's through the Son of God. And again, it's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit, and it's so limited, and it's such a low level term in consciousness, in terms of if you think that's the only way to get to God, is through Jesus Christ. And Lord Jesus Christ is incredible. I mean, what a being. Hawkins says the most evolved being there's ever been, Christ consciousness. But the way it's been sold to us through religion and through scripture, come on, that's not obviously not the truth. And if that's the only way, so then all the other religions, like the Muslims and the Hindus, and that way you can't get to God that way. And it's nah, I don't believe that. That's not the truth. So the truth that sets us free, we are all God's children. We all need to stand together as one in these times. And the way that I offer that is through the vortex, the way that I do that. And it's really changing recently, massively, in fact, over the last week or so. The Reconnection's on Friday night. We're going to be in the Yoga Barn in Glasgow on Friday night, which is an amazing space. I'm really grateful and looking forward to being in there. I think there's 20 places. It sold out in a couple of days, which was great. And the intention for that night is reconnection. This theme that's been coming through me, this wave of inspiration, is called reconnection. This is the thing that fixes everything. So the reconnection is what I'm going to be talking about all the time. The reconnection back to you, back to the true self. How many people are lost? How many people have no idea who they are? They don't know what it's all about. They don't know what this life is all about. They're just making their way day to day in survival, in stress, no well, in illusion, in terms of the distractions. The deadly sins, the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, the kind of eating shite, and the watching shite, listening to shite, and a shite life for a lot of people. You know, so that's not the way that it's meant to be. And the reconnection process is the first part, and it will happen on Friday night. I'm really excited to share this with. I'm at a different place just now, the way that it's coming through, because of everything I've just spoke about, what I'm surrounded with and the work that I'm doing, you know, in terms of how devotional I am to this just now, this mission. I've never been like this before. I've really levelled up over this last wee bit. And on Friday night, the reconnection in the yoga barn is something that's going to change people's lives. It will. And those who are coming from the programme, that understand, a lot have been running about it now for many years, but over the last 18 months it's been incredible since the programme became a thing, and since the programme went live, and now because of what we're doing within the programme, when you have a load of people who are at elevated levels of consciousness, and many of them experienced enlightenment, there's no two other ways to say it, that's just what it is, that's the truth. They've experienced God, they know that it's inside of them, they know they carry it inside them, so when we sit as a group in meditation and other people are on about that, you create a literal vortex. That's what we've experienced. And the people that are on about that, you cannot not get uplifted with it. You cannot have anything other than inspiration. And when you go through the breath work and the relaxation, so you can't think, so you're out your head completely and you're reconnected back into your heart, which is where this resides, where this frequency, this divine essence that we call God, it's up in these upper centres. That's where it's carried within your heart and within your soul. And it's the intelligence of the heart and it's the intelligence of the soul. We need to access that. And that's done with intention, and it's done with the breath work, and it's done with the last 28 years of the stuff that I've picked up and working out with myself. So, you know, if you're coming on Friday night, please get excited. That's sold out very quickly. There's a waiting list now for the next one, which is the 25th of July. It's going to be every month we're looking to do it. Again, presence in Glasgow. We're taking this to the world. So presence in Glasgow once a month to begin with. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully that can. You know, we'll be able to kind of maybe increase that. Lanark's a wee bit far out the way for a lot of people. So the intention to take it to Glasgow, great, the response, really excited for those who are coming, and buckle up. It's going to be a really empowering evening where there's going to be so many answers and so many solutions and so many realisations and a lot of healing taking place, a lot of relief, a lot of stuff getting left behind, a lot of transcendence of things that have been holding you back. Because enlightenment is the plan, you know, and that can happen in one session. I've seen it so many times because we know that the way to do that. I understand how that goes together, and I understand how to unlock, you know, the different kind of combinations of the nervous system and quieten down the mind. If you can't switch off the mind, you can't get there, you know. So once we get back into the heart, then get ready because it's coming. And then off the back of that, this week, over this last week, thank you, Fern, for everything you're doing for me, and everything you're doing for this mission, and everything we're doing together. Fern, who's, you know, one of the founding members of the programme, along with Michael, they've been about this since inception, and over the last kind of month or so, Fern's role has changed in a way that I'm just so excited about, and we've been working really closely together daily over the last few weeks. They've just went on their travels again today. They're back in the RV and they're heading south again, and the last few weeks have been incredible. What we've created, and last week, you know, now having the ability and having Fern by my side, you know, like this is what's coming through, because I'm creating all the time. All I do is create. All I'm doing is, like, that's what I'm a creator. I'm the art that's coming through, the poems and the information, it needs to be let out to the public, and I can do the post, but when it comes to events and putting the posts up and putting the information and how all the landing pages, that's Fern that does all that. So really grateful for you, Fern. Thank you so much. So grateful in so many different ways. So many people are benefiting. And, you know, when it came through last week, my intention is to do a live meditation. Now, we're already doing a live meditation twice a day within the programme. I'm going to talk about the programme in a wee second. But the live meditations, there's a sacred space meditation which is open 24/7, which has now become its own vortex. There's people in that every single day at all different times. I go in every morning, normally I was in there at 3 o'clock this morning, between 3 and about 8 in meditation. So when I go on, the transmission comes through me, I bring it into the group, and we post them within the community that it's going to be live. So the live is me actually going in and holding the meditation, but at the same time, that space is there all the time, and it's created its own, it's a literal vortex, where there is so much goodness coming through that just now. So that's already twice a day, 5:30 in the morning normally, sometimes a wee bit earlier, and then 9 o'clock at night, the 9 o'clock prayer, which is just the intention to see that your brothers and sisters are basically, you know, the light of God is coming through them. There's a prayer that comes through Saj Marg, and it's really like to see your brothers and sisters, how the divine light is coming through and how it's expanding and how people are making their way in this world, and the light we're bringing into the world. That's every single night at 9 o'clock. Unless I'm working, and unless I'm away in like a family engagement. But 7 days a week, 365, that space is always open. And last week, the intention to open that up to the public, and that's where it becomes a wee bit tricky, because the programme and the information and in terms of the training that's taking place to get people up to speed, in terms of even know what meditation is, so they don't just go in and it's music playing and they don't get anything from it. There's a learning curve, of course there is. You need to learn the information of what it actually is before you even get round about that. That's what the programme is. The programme's information of all the stuff that I teach, so you can get round about it. But the desire to take it to the world, and the desire because of what's required within the world, meditation is what fixes this. Reconnection back to the self and back to the heart and the soul and each other is the first step in terms of how we get the world back on its feet. So it came through last week in meditation. In a dream, actually, I need to do more. And then I got up, the meditation was like, this is what you need to do. So the guidance is there, being an inspiration, being in spirit, and really the desire to help, because I can do more and I want to do more. So starting the 1st of July, next Wednesday, it's going to be 9 o'clock every single night, a live meditation that's going to be open and available to the public. There's going to be an exchange. It's going to be £1 per meditation. And every single penny that we take is going to be used to fund this mission and take it to the world. I tried to do it for free for 23 years. I tried to do it to people, to give it to people for nothing. That doesn't work because they don't invest in it, they don't value it. Somebody called me out last week in terms of because I'm charging money for things now, and I've tried it. I really did on my children's life. I tried to do it for nothing. It didn't work. They didn't do it. They weren't doing the work. They didn't invest in it. They didn't value it. The exchange needs to take place. The £1 a day with the programme, it's going to be the same for the meditations. It's £1 for the meditations to access these 9 o'clock groups. And as soon as you register interest, as soon as you sign up for it, it'll be every single day. There'll be a fresh Zoom link sent out every single day. As soon as you sign up for it, you'll be sent out a video explaining what meditation is, and also a kind of guided, it must be 5 minutes. I recorded it the other day, explaining how to get into it, how to quiet the mind, how to get out your head and how to reconnect back into your heart, how to experience peace of mind as a starter for 10, but then how to get into your heart, how to get the most benefit from it. This happens in your heart, it happens in your feelings, it happens in your soul. It doesn't happen in your head, so we need to get you out of your head. And then if you are, intentional with this practice, if you get on about it regular and often, then the benefits you'll experience, my wish is that everybody gets what I get. That's it, that's my intention, is to get people to just feel, just once, what I get in meditation almost every single time I shut my eyes. Wherever I am, it's life-changing. And it just, again, because the reason you do it is to tap into the divine. And when you tap into the divine, you take on the power of the divine. So to be in that flow state, as above, so below is literal. So when you tap into God, for that period of time, you take on the power of God. When you can quiet your mind and really feel it, that intelligence of your heart, and you can really kind of take it on, your consciousness shifts massively, and you see things from a completely different perspective. And the power that you become, you literally become it. All of a sudden, there's nothing can come your way that can ever trip you up, because you're basically standing in the light of the divine. You're in the presence of God, and nothing is left undone, and all healing takes place. And you get to kind of come back, would be the ultimate, aim is to come back and then bring that light into the world. Again, that's another step how we fix it. And next Wednesday it starts, the 1st of July, every single night. It's £1 per meditation. You sign up every single day if you want to do it. And the purpose is, again, to connect as one, to allow the divine to come through and to start to take it to a bigger group, to the public. Programme members will be there as well, and we start to kind of shine this light into the world at a time when it's absolutely needed, so really excited for that. That's going to be awesome. And at the same time as that, the programme is just about to, it's been released. It's been a kind of quiet release, the programme. There's so much good stuff going on within the programme. Where to even start? That's like another, it's probably another recording, just talking about the launch of the programme. The community, what we've got within the community, the people that are on about it, the app, the online app that we've got, in terms of that space we can all be together and share our ideas and share the inspiration. We just did a cleanse last week, a 5-day cleanse, which was awesome within the community. The live meditations every single day, 2 a day. Is something that's so powerful, and like to be in alignment, to be in that third pillar that I teach, alignment, to be in alignment before you get into the world, before you go to your breakfast table, before you get into your workplace, before you get into your car and hit the motorway, to be in alignment and to experience the divine and to experience the power of that group every single day before you start your day. Don't wait to see how it goes, don't wait to see what the circus has got lined up for you, because it will bring you down, so to set your vibration first and foremost before the day starts. Very important. So the programme is now live again. There will be a launch. There will be, I'm going to be talking about it a lot because it feels now it's very different, the programme. There's the programme itself with all the lessons, all the teachings I've picked up over the last 28 years. Breathwork, relaxation, cold exposure, the awarenesses, the intention, the power of alignment, all the different modalities, everything that I basically teach, which is really just, like a starter for 10. That's like the foundations. But then it leads into very quickly, and we want to get you there very quickly in terms of the spiritual practice. This is a spiritual community. It's an intentional, devotional spiritual community as one, in the field that we call God. That's where it's all going. So if that calls you, if that's for you, then this is a great time to run about it because of the meditations every day, because of where I'm at, because of where the group is. There are so many evolved beings within this group now. And to be run about it, if you're looking for answers, if you're looking for solutions, if you're looking for healing in any way, if you're looking for, that question, who am I? I don't know who I am. I'm lost. I'm separated. This is a way to do it. This is a bridge into that, and it's through direct experience. There's no rainbows and unicorns. It's through the direct experience. That's what we see every single time for those that are really committed to this work. There is a way to do it. So the programme itself, excited for that. The community, grateful to every single one of you guys that are contributing every single day within the group, within the new app we've just switched over this week. Excited for that. It's like Facebook without having all the drama that goes with Facebook. It's just our own space. Thanks to Michael for creating that, and great to have the relationship in terms of with Michael and Fern that we've got, this working relationship where we're in a completely new place now, and it really feels like we're ready to take it to the world, so it's really exciting. The mission is on. The mission is to heal the world. I've said that on here often. That's the intention with this. The light that comes through this, the answers and the solutions and the power in this work, it heals everything that it touches if you apply the practices. It takes work, and that work doesn't feel like work. It should feel easy once you understand how it goes together, but it does take work. And it's all about learning the way, and the way is the way that it's meant to be, which is really in alignment with God. It's in alignment with Mother Nature. It's in alignment with your true nature, and it's the truth, and it's the answers, and it's the solutions, and it's the thing that fixes every single thing that it touches. So I'm really excited about it, and that's on the programme. And again, that's £1 a day. The thing is, if you gave me £1 a day, I'm pretty sure you're going to get up and do the work. I'm pretty sure you're going to get up and have your culture or do your breath work, or because within the programme there's hundreds of hours of recordings, breath work, meditations. There's everything you can imagine: cold exposure, heat exposure, all the stuff that we do within the programme, all the modalities to manage the physical self. But then, most importantly, once you get all of that and you learn how that goes together, then it's a spiritual journey, and then to sit in meditation, whether it's online, whether it's in the groups that we have. A lot of these, the work that I'm doing, it's just programme members only. It's shifted so much, and we've just actually booked a retreat. So the reconnection retreat is going to be the start of September, and that's for newbies coming in. So again, that's another video, but there's ways into to get around about this work. But mostly, if you're in the programme, you've got access to it 24/7. So exciting times. I'm really grateful. Thanks for your time, for listening. To end all wars, love is the answer. That sacred vibration that we call love. The direct experience of the divine, the direct experience of the power that's inside every single one of us, so we can stand with awareness, so we can stand with intention, so we can stand together as one. And it's darkness versus light. The fight is on for your soul. And with this work, we stand in the light of God, the light of the divine. And that power is inexhaustible. And the challenges that you face, the force that you face, there's no way in any way, shape or form that it comes up against the power of God. So that's why it's so important in these times. Peace out. God bless. Take it easy. Bye for now. Sending my best. I'll see you soon. Thank you.